Hello folks, welcome to the Viz session at Will Eisner Week 2021. Normally we'd be in Paisley, but clearly we're not. But one advantage could be last year Hannah Berry came up to Paisley and I wanted to show her a detail on Paisley Abbey, but it was raining so hard we couldn't even see the Abbey. So at least we're dry and warm and comfortable. That's all I can say. So Graham and Simon, welcome. How has this year been with all its restrictions, or are you just tied to the drawing board anyway, so it doesn't really matter that everything's shut?
No, it's been a bit different because we're normally, when we write, we're normally meet in a shed in my garden. We've got a big shed, and Thorpe used to come down 3 days a week and we'd sit and write stuff. And of course that's gone. I haven't seen Thorpe for a year, over a year now. So we've
Graham, I've been in the shed. I'm in the shed.
You shouldn't have lost it last year.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, so we've been sort of sat at home and sort of writing individually and then sort of emailing stuff over to each other and saying, you know, what about this, what about this? And so it's worked. I thought it'd be quite difficult, but it seems to have worked. We've got, what, 12 issues out under lockdown, you know, so it's, yeah.
Have sales been okay? My local shop gets quite a bundle in, and I'm in almost every day, and it keeps going down and down and down, and then they get another big bundle in. So it's doing all right up here.
It's shoplifters, I think, isn't it?
It's a way up. It's a way up so high, we have to actually get one of these grappling hooks to get it off. It's a shop that gets international magazines in, so there's stuff from all over the place in different languages and everything, and it's all crammed into this small shop. But it's fabulous, a great shop. Barrett's and Byers Road, everybody.
Very good. It took a big hit in, because we sell a quarter of all our magazines are sold in travel points, you know, into railway stations and airports. And so in the first lockdown, that was, you know, a quarter of your sales just gone. When the train stations and the airports shut. It picked up again sort of later on in the year, and I'm not sure what's going to happen in this lockdown, but you know, we're surviving, John.
Surviving. No, I'd forgotten about that. There was something I wanted at the beginning of the first lockdown, and I went to Argyle Street to the largest WH Smiths in Scotland, and it was closed. And I thought, oh, okay, well, there's one at Central Station. It was closed. Well, there's one at Queen Street. They've rebuilt Queen Street and there's no longer a shop there. So I had to walk all the way home without getting anything. So you're quite right, the travel points had closed and that was
Yeah.
So anyway, folks, we got a number of Viz fanatics emailing us when they heard we were talking to you guys, and they've got some questions. So I thought we'd go through them. If you hear the dog barking, I think the dog wants out. But
well, if you need to go and let the dog out, John, you just disappear. We'll keep talking.
The dog will just have to wait. I don't think the dog has read Viz, but you never know. Anyway, Gary is our first contributor. He's got a very sad description. He says he's a collector of Viz until wife made me give them away last year. I mean, I had a similar problem, but I just hung on to my Vizes. I mean, you've got to have priorities in this world. Anyway, he said, are any of the characters, and the answer is probably yes, based on people you know or have met?
Well, I think the really famous one is Spoilt Bastard, which is based on, I believe it's Graham's brother, isn't it, Graham?
Yes, based on my brother Richard, yeah. He was a very, very badly behaved child. He's all right now, he's a nice bloke now, but he was badly behaved as a child.
He's easily recognised in his sailor suit as he makes his way around Nottingham, isn't he?
He still wears the sailor suit, I must admit. Still got that.
Does he sign copies of Viz?
He will do if you ask him. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure he will. But does
he?
He's very flat. I mean, he knows it's not a secret. I mean, he found out. I said that on another interview a few years ago, and he found out. He's not bothered. He's all right now.
Was Roger Melly not
I've
based on
spoken to him
somebody?
for about 20 years. Sorry?
Was Roger Melly not based on somebody?
He was, yes, he was a bloke from Tyne Tees Telly, who, I mean, he's dead now, isn't he? A bloke, was he?
Yes,
We can
Rod,
say he was called Rod Griffiths.
Rod Griffiths.
He was, like a continuity man at Tyne Tees, who I think Chris and Simon had seen in the canteen, and they were amazed because it was this voice that they were familiar with from the television. I suspect he was swearing in a sort of theatrical manner, and they liked that very much. So that's where he came from.
Yeah, and Mr. Logic as well was based on
Yes.
Simon's brother Steve, who's dead now, who's a wonderful bloke. But Mr. Logic, he was just such a logical person. Nice bloke.
I loved issue 300 where Mr. Logic's going, well, is it really number 300? Because there was this issue, there was that issue, and there was this special but new stuff in it. Does that count in the number? I think this is issue 311, he says.
I'm sure Steve would have known exactly what number it was, though. I think
He certainly would. Absolutely.
he used to work at. Oh, sorry, he used to work.
You didn't have to do much fictionalizing then, it was just there.
Well, a little bit, yeah. He used to work at. It was Jim Henson's Creature Shop, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Steve used to work. He used to do special effects for films and telly. Yeah, very clever bloke. Yeah.
So actually, it's very easy producing Viz. You just get anecdotes about real people and write them down. Oh well, I thought there was something more mystical in the process. You learn something every day.
Yeah, it's a bit harder these days because, as I say, we haven't left the house for a year, so we've not actually met anybody to base characters on. But it's getting a bit more difficult. But
that's true, right enough.
Oh yes.
However, you do have quite a lot of characters. Do you know which ones are the most popular? Asked Gary, who seems to be deprived of Viz because he's living in a house with his wife.
There's a bit of a theme emerging here, isn't there?
Yeah, that's. So what was the question?
The most popular
which
character.
characters are most popular? Yeah.
Well, years ago, our publishers did a survey, and it was for advertising. Like, you know, so they could tell advertisers how many people read it and whatever. And they did a survey of who's your favourite and your least favourite character. And the same character won both categories. He was both the favourite. This was Billy the Fish. He was both the favourite and the least favourite. Obviously not the same people didn't vote, you know, the favourite and the least favourite, but when you added the numbers up. But I would say it was Billy the Fish these days. I don't know, I think people tend to like the regulars, the you know, the Mrs. Brady's and the Fat Snags and Roger Melly and the ones like that. They're certainly the ones we like doing the most.
Yeah.
So and that's all that matters, isn't it? You know, it's not bother what people's favourites are.
No, forget about them. I got the impression when we did that amazing panel about the Profanosaurus down in Kendal that Roger Melly was fairly popular. Remember, there was this girl in the audience and she seemed to know every single Profanosaurus word ever published.
That's disgraceful. She ought to be ashamed of herself.
Yes.
And I think you were drawing hints, but you barely got a couple of lines down. And this girl put her hand up every single time. It was amazing.
I remember it.
Donna from behind the bookshelf, wherever that is, maybe it's in that shed. You should check. You've been in it for a year.
I'll go and check. I'll go and check when we've done that.
Yeah, definitely. Simon can get fed. She's asked, is today's world, the world we're living in, just Viz made real? I was thinking today about the Broom Windsors. I mean, you're just getting that off the telly, aren't you?
Yeah, the Broom Windsors. You just wait and see what the royals have been up to, and then just retell it in a Scottish accent, and stick.
They've gone a bit soapish, haven't they? Just lately.
You mean Harry and Meghan and that? You mean Harry and Meghan and everything, yeah. Apparently Oprah's not happy with Harry because he did that interview with James Corden, and she thinks that'll lose her X number of viewers. So he's not only pissed off his family, he's not only pissed off distant relatives, he's now pissing off people he didn't know before. So he's doing quite a good job. Mind you, still better than Andrew.
It's not a very high bar, though, is it? You know, being better than Andrew, it's not true. It's not very good.
But yeah, it is a funny old world, as they say these days. It's getting a bit more. I don't think it's the world that's making it difficult to do. But when years ago, we used to sort of parody tabloid newspapers, which was good fun. But that's becoming difficult to do because they're doing it themselves. I mean, you pick up a copy of the Star. I mean, you don't have to. Don't pick up a copy of the Star.
I see it in shops. Yeah, you don't have to pick it up.
If you did, it's just joke stuff. It's not real. You know, it's not news. It's like what we do. They're just making it up. They make it up as they go along.
Plus, any joke that you might think of, 500 people have already done it. On you know, it's like a race to get a topical joke onto Twitter, isn't it now? Any news story.
And we only go out 10 times a year, so you know something can happen, and it could be like 5 weeks before our comic comes out with a joke in, and well, you know, everybody's forgotten about it by then. So we have to but then we've got to stay a bit topical, but we can't be sort of up to the minute topical. So it's a tricky thing.
Remember your story where all the TV presenters were fighting over which bit of Italy it belonged to them, and they were all bumping into each other and having arguments. Yeah. There's a joke in yesterday's Private Eye, which is almost exactly the same joke. So
really?
It doesn't mean that the cartoonist has read Viz, but one suspects might have been inspired by it.
No, the three women, the three historians in that cartoon loved it, didn't they, Thorpe? They asked for the art. They asked for the artwork and raffled it off for charity.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
oh, that's nice.
Actually, it's 4 of them, wasn't it? There's 4 historians, 4 TV historians. Well, that was nice.
Oh, that is good. Yeah, I think a lot of people, even if you're kind of taking the mick, quite like to be in a popular magazine.
Or Viz.
Did you agree, Simon?
Sorry, I was going to say or Viz.
Or Viz. One of my favourites is the Real Ale Twats, and I thought, well, Camera are not going to like the Real Ale Twats. Au contraire, they interviewed Davy Jones on the Camera website, and I think they may have got some of the artwork as well. So it's just funny. You think you've kind of taken things that it seems that people still love it.
Yeah, the Real Ale Twats is one where people write in asking for the artwork the most, and it's usually publicans who want to put some behind the bar. And and people often send in photographs of people they've spotted in the street that look like his characters. And the bloke from Real Ale Twats is by far and away the man who's spotted more times than any other.
The one with the beard?
Yeah, the one with the beard and the beret.
Yeah.
And the sort of the big.
We've got one here. I'm on Byers Road just now, and there's a guy like that walks on Byers Road. I think he comes out every day hoping one of the pubs will be open, but they're all shut at the moment, I'm afraid. But yeah, I loved the fact that Camera actually interviewed Davy, and we're very, very pleased to be doing this quite nice interview. It was good.
Yeah, very few people have taken offence over the years. Very few famous people that we've taken the mickey out of have actually taken offence. I mean, most you don't hear from them. Some you hear from them and say they like it, but there's not many sort of have a go at you as a result, which is nice.
Well, I think generally, if we've really had a go at somebody, it's sort of been in the hope that it might hurt their feelings a little bit. I mean, not like the TV historians, but
no.
If we
did it depends who they are.
Yeah, we did a cartoon about Jacob Rees-Mogg, didn't we? Where he was
I love that. Yeah,
like a detective, and you would like to think that he would have turned his nose up at it. I mean, obviously he would have turned his nose up at it, wouldn't he, really?
Yeah,
It would, yeah.
but it wasn't in Latin, so he probably hasn't read it.
There was a bit
There
of
was bits
Latin
in
in there,
Latin.
wasn't there?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, so there was, yeah.
because we've got our own special Latin translator. It's a friend of ours who's the dean of Gonville and Keys in Cambridge, and whenever we need any Latin translating, she does it for us. She's a reverend.
Oh, that's
And,
brilliant.
you know, she ought to know better, really, than to read us. Shame on her.
Is she better than Google Translate?
Oh yeah, she's tons better than Google Translate. Yeah.
Google will have to up its ante there. Get in touch with your translator.
Right.
The letters. It feels like Letterboxd has way more reader contributions than it used to. And a guy who calls himself He Knows Whom He Is, at least he got the whom right. That's correct. Says, is that true, or is all the shite made up by yourselves?
No, he's right. He is right in that there's a lot more than there used to be. In years and years ago, before the days of internet, when people used to send in letters on paper, written in a pen, you used to get big stacks of them. I'd say about 50% of the stuff we used was readers sent in, and about 50% was made up. Probably a little bit more made up. But these days, with the email, where you can just think of something and send it off that, and to buy a stamp, we're all getting loads more stuff sent in. Of course, the readership's dropped, so it's it's gone down a bit that way. But I'd say it's probably nearer 80% readers sent in and 20% made up these days.
Oh, that's
Of
impressive.
those 80%, it's probably a couple of dozen people that send in the really good letters.
Yes, yes. I like the one about Donald Trump. This guy from the Grampian region said, yeah, he owns a couple of racecourses up here, but I don't know why he'd be on the national news. What else has he done? he deserves that. Do you have a favourite letter in the past? That was mine.
Favourite letter?
Was there one that made you laugh immediately?
Not really.
Hang on.
No,
I've got a copy here.
Yeah, you can get a copy.
I'll read one from a recent copy. Hang on.
Oh, hold on a second.
This is Television Gold.
Oh, I've got the last annual here.
There's a good one here. This is just a little short one. It says, I've just watched a football match and bent over and farted the full-time whistle, and I only lightly soiled myself.
There's one says, I was very surprised to hear that the Pope has declared that hell doesn't actually exist. He's obviously never been shopping in Morrison's supermarket in Droitwich on a fucking Saturday morning. It's probably very unfair on Droitwich and Morrison's. Stephen will chop these big long silences out.
That's right. That's his job.
This is the best bit.
Everybody will go, boy, they're on the ball, aren't they? Yeah.
There's one there. It says,
Here's
people.
Whenever you see vets on the telly, they always wear shirts with sleeves rolled up. More likely, sorry, I'll start again. Whenever you see vets on telly, they always wear shirts with the sleeves rolled up, as more likely at some point in the programme they'll be elbow deep in a cow's hoop. Why don't these people simply wear short sleeve shirts in the first place? It's a very good point.
That's a very sensible suggestion. I thought the letters were supposed to be funny, but that's a serious one.
It is, isn't it?
Here's an historical question from a guy who calls himself Buddy, possibly from Paisley. That's a Paisley Buddy. Back in the day, visited a few good competitors, Smut, Zit, Ziggy, etc. I think there was one from Marvel called Bog Paper. Did you ever read any of those? Did you think there was one that was better than the rest, or were you too busy doing Viz?
Not really. I remember buying a copy. I can't remember which one it was. I bought one I was in Sheffield for some reason and bought it. Saw it. It was probably one of the first ones that came out. And I read it and I thought it's a bit like a bad dream where you've dreamt that you've done a comic and then you look at it at what you've achieved whilst asleep. And it just seemed that they didn't seem to get what the appeal of Viz was. It's somehow.
You woke up and it was actually Viz you were reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of them, John. You're right, and our publisher said as soon as the comic looked like it was going to become successful, our publisher John Brown said, right, you've got to launch a competitor. You've got to launch your own competitor to it. So don't just do this, do another one as well. Because obviously we weren't working hard enough doing one comic, and we did. So we didn't launch our own competitor, and loads of others came on the market. But I think we spent the time trying to just avoid them. I think so I couldn't tell you which one was better. I think Zik was probably the most successful, the most commercially successful. That went for a couple of years, didn't it? I think Zik.
Yes, it did. Yeah, Zik, I think, was the most successful.
So I think that was the most successful. But and there was a lot of stuff in there that we rejected. We get stuff sent in and we'd reject it, and then it would turn up in Zik, which. So yeah, but I think we spent the time trying to ignore them, just trying to pretend they didn't exist, John.
Of course, up in Scotland, speaking of John Brown, there was Electric Soup, which John published for a while.
That's right, yeah.
I remember that.
But at least Electric Soup had Rob McCallum, who eventually worked for Stan Lee, and I think he works in American movies now, and Frank Quitely, who's going on to draw everything from the X-Men to Superman, and has got a new show with Mark Millar coming out on Netflix in May, I think it is.
Yeah.
Jupiter's Legacy. So I think the quality of Electric Soup was a bit better than.
Oh yeah, it was definitely.
So
that's why John published that, didn't he?
Yeah,
yes, that's right.
Was Frank Quitely the one who he drew like Dudley D. Watkins at the time? It was like a Bruins thing.
He did indeed. And when he went to draw his first American strips, he was still drawing like Dudley D. Watkins till one of the editors said, you can move the camera like you do in a film, and you don't have to show all the characters in a frame at the same time and things. And his artwork immediately took off.
Yeah.
Vincent does listen. I think some artists don't. Have you found any artists that were difficult to work with, or do you just stop publishing them?
No, to be honest, no, I don't. We've found anybody difficult to work with. I mean, we see very few of our contributors anyway. I mean, it's all done online now. We used to have a Christmas party every year when we had an office, and we used to get the contributors down. But no, I can honestly put my hand on my heart and say that there's nobody difficult we work with. They're all like a great bunch.
I suppose that's the pity about there being no festivals in the real world this year. We normally meet at Kendal, for example, and it's always good to catch up with people. Hopefully by October, Kendal might happen again. I take it you both want to go if it does happen.
Yeah, if it's on, we'll be there. She's running it, isn't she, Julie?
Yes, so, Julie's going to run something.
Something, yeah.
Hopefully it will be real. I said to her, may need to restrict audiences or whatever. May need to record all the stuff so that people who can't be there can see it like we're doing for Paisley. But it'd be nice.
Right.
It'd be nice to meet the guests again.
It would.
Yeah.
It would. I mean, this profession's a lonely enough profession as it is, because you sit in your room all day just drawing, and that's why I love book signings, because you actually meet the people that like the thing and that like it enough to buy it and actually come and get it signed. And I love book signings for that reason, and I really miss them this year. And the lakes when you get to meet all the people that like the thing and like what you do and want to talk to you about it. It's I did miss it, I must admit. Mind you,
when we did a book signing at Kendal once, and the people were queuing in front of our table to get to somebody else to sign their books, weren't they?
It was Doug Braithwaite.
That's it, yeah. Right.
Yeah, yeah, they were.
Queues
So
in front of our table.
yeah, he had such a long queue. It was in front of our table, and it stopped people queuing for us. I think we would have had hundreds and hundreds of people, but
Yeah.
they couldn't see us because Doug's queue was in front of our table.
You guys, you should have started drawing superheroes and got them confused and called each other Doug. Just
We put a big sign up saying, "Have this cartoon drawn while you're waiting for Doug." But nobody took us up on that.
oh, they've got no taste. Some people, it's no
It's
taste.
true. It's true.
Now, Susan wants to know your favourite Profanosaurus definition. Here we're back at the Profanosaurus.
Right, I'll have to have a look in the Profanosaurus.
I can tell you mine straight off the bat. It's shit pump, which is the television. It's a good word for the television. We call the television in our house is the shit pump. Turn the shit pump on. What's on the shit pump tonight? It's very good. So that's mine, John. I tried to fill in while Thorpe's rummaging around for a copy of the Profanosaurus.
Hang on, there's one here, right? Hang on.
And there's another one I like. It's the CIA waterboarding Donald Duck, which is the noise made of a particularly sort of wet flatulence, which I like.
There's one here. It's a midlife tricycle, which is a high-powered motorbike bought by a 40-year-old man. It says.
Yep.
Hang on.
It's been very successful, the Profanosaurus. I mean, it really. There we are. There we are. There's the thing itself.
Is that back to front?
Yep.
It started as a free thing that John Brown wanted to give away something free on the cover of the one issue when he saw sales were taking a little dip. He says, but it's got to be small. He says, you can't take up much of the cover. It's got to be fairly flat. He says, because you don't want to bulk out, and it's got to be good. And so we thought we'd give away a cheese slice, which would be fantastic, a processed cheese slice. And he actually looked into it. He looked into whether we could give away a cheese slice on the front of the comic. And apparently we could, but the comic would have to be stored in the fridge in newsagents. So we gave up on that idea. We came up with this Profanosaurus, like a swearing dictionary. And it ran to 300 entries, didn't it? And we say,
yeah,
well,
that's about it.
Swear words. There aren't 300 swear words. But we did. We found 300 and printed this little Profanosaurus on the cover, and it just grew and grew.
Brilliant. Folks, we've just been joined by Miles Ross, who has,
oh, yeah. That's
has a connection with Viz. Hi, Miles. Hi, Miles. Oh, Miles isn't moving. Oh,
He's gone.
Oh, he's gone. He probably thought it was the Japanese manga Viz that he was coming. We get that a lot.
The reason I was hoping Miles would join us, I don't know what's going on with his connection. Maybe he's using the wrong operating system. But he was involved with getting some Viz characters on the TV. Is that not correct?
Yes, he was. I think John Brown got him in as a producer on when they were doing. There were was it 3 little series that were done for Channel 4? There was a Billy the Fish.
Yeah.
Was it Roger Melly?
To the Sexist.
To the Sexist, yeah. And John do that, and he was a very entertaining man. And,
that's a good adjective for Miles. Entertaining.
very entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when he's there, you know.
When he's there, yeah. Hopefully he will be in a minute. He did pop up, but he froze. Not emotionally, just the picture froze. But was he? I can't remember which one of you, because we've had so many emails in the last few days. Something about Jimmy Nail visiting. Because he was going to be Sid the Sexist.
Oh God! There was some discussion where Jimmy Nail wanted to do Sid the Sexist as a sort of
Hello, Miles.
thing.
Oh, sorry about that. My machine just crashed. Flash of the.
Hi, Miles.
Hi, how you doing? Good to see you.
Yes, we're still
Nice to see
alive.
you.
Exactly likewise. Just about hanging in there. Good to see you guys.
Oh, it's nice to see you too. You haven't changed.
Well, yeah, thank you.
You don't get any older. You look great.
God bless you.
Miles looks as though he's had a haircut, though.
I have had a haircut, and
I'm a bit jealous.
I cut it myself.
That's not bad.
I've been cutting my own hair, which has been quite interesting.
Are you using clippers or scissors?
No, I got a set of off of eBay. I just happen to have them to hand.
Right.
I got a set of
This is turning into a paid
Chinese,
promotion, isn't it? It's like advertorial feature.
some nice thinners there and some very sharp, and it comes with a comb. So for $9.99, this can be yours on eBay. I can recommend it.
I think
There's no going back.
No, I'm going to need it very soon, or it's going
Yeah,
to hold
there's
down
no-
my back.
there's no going back for me now.
No.
Yeah. Well, Chairman Mao always had very good hair, didn't he? Very, you know,
He did.
a good
He's
look. Yeah.
Bit of a hero of mine.
So Miles, how did you get involved with the Viz guys? It was to do with the TV presentations.
That's right. Yeah, I was lucky enough to work with the Viz guys in about '94 and around '92 to '94 time. And I was approached by John Brown, the then publisher, to set up a TV production company, which originally wasn't to have anything to do with Viz, which he told me on a daily basis. And then after paying my wages for a couple of months, I think he thought, oh, sod this. We'll get Miles involved with the Viz stuff. So we flew up together, but obviously John Brown, being John Brown, missed the flight. So luckily enough, I got up there on my own and was able to meet the guys, and obviously they were very funny, still are hilarious. And from then, in those days, video, although they were highly flammable, everybody had like 100, 200 videos in their houses. So videos were really popular. So they'd already, Billy the Fish and had already been made, but had not been broadcast, because in those days, the broadcasters would commission loads of shows and not show them even at all sometimes. And so they were after more Viz product, because obviously it was a hugely successful, funny magazine. And they approached, so after I met the Viz guys and they said, yeah, he's not so bad, I spoke to Channel 4, who were very keen to get Roger Melly and Sid the Sexist. So we did a deal with the video company for the video rights, which enabled us to give us the money to make it. And then we spoke to Channel 4. And because the magazine was so funny, I was able to get Peter Cook and Harry Enfield and Kathy Burke and Carolina Hearn and Simon Day and John Thompson and all these really good people on board to do the voices. But the funny thing with the Fat Slags is we made the Fat Slags and we delivered it to Channel 4. And Stephen Garrett, who was the commissioning editor at the time, who wasn't known for his sense of humour, he was a very posh guy who, as I think it was Thorpe who said, he can't swear properly. He couldn't swear properly, like a lot of posh people. And he phoned me up and said, look, this Fat Slags, they're fat and they're slags. And I sort of went, yeah, that's kind of the point. I think that's what makes them funny, is that they don't care what they eat and they don't care who they sleep with. I think that's what's great about it. And he's like, we can't put this out. They're fat and they're slags. And this just went on for like 5 minutes. And I said, well, okay, well, you've commissioned it though, and we've made it. But in the end, because the video company had paid to make it, we didn't do what a lot of people would do, especially now, which was say, okay, well, you've still got to pay us or we'll sue you. We didn't do anything like that. So that was the end of the Fat Slags on television, because they were fat and slags, and it did sell very well on video. But they took Roger Melly, which was funny, because Roger Melly was so much more swearing in it, because the Fat Slags didn't swear anywhere near as much as Roger. but they took that, but they didn't show it until, I think it broadcast, Roger Melly, at 5 to midnight on New Year's Eve. And then they said, well, it didn't rate very well. So I was like, okay.
There'll be nobody in Scotland awake by 5 to midnight New Year's Eve.
Yeah, and you know, you think, well, okay, 5 to midnight on New Year's Day. It's like, you know, it's not the best slot that you could hope for a new show, but it did actually rate a lot better than a lot of their programs. But then once again, that was a big seller on video and on well, it was only video in those days. There was no DVD. So, and Sid the Sexist was a different proposition. That was altogether more tricky. And Channel 4, once again, the same Stephen Garrett said, we can't show this, he's a sexist. So you do, you know, I spent a long time dealing with these people, these broadcasters who were basically very stupid, you know, on many fronts. You know, it was like, it's not as if we called it Sid the Geordie, you know, and then delivered it. So, but yeah, luckily enough to have got some fantastic people to do the voices. You know, obviously Peter Cook and Harry Enfield were fantastic, and Caroline Aherne, God bless her, and Kathy Burke were also brilliant. So, and then you had people like Bob Mortimer and John Thompson and Simon Day playing smaller roles, which was also great. So yeah, but yeah, there was a lot of characters involved in as there is with everything. With John Brown was quite a unique character, and so was Spender. He was an interesting fellow. He was very hard to tie down because we wanted to do Sid the Sexist as live action, and we had lots of meetings with him, but he was, by that time he had obviously become very famous, and he was basically impossible to deal with. You know, he wanted to write and direct and star in it and do the music, and it was a kind of like a whole, it just got to a point where it was very difficult to get it away, you know. So it was, we then, after that, he didn't want to be involved with the animation, so he didn't do the voices for Sid. But yeah, they were still, I mean, I've seen odd bits and pieces over the years, and it's still very funny. You know, those guys are very funny. So it's good to put it on. And I mean, in the kind of Mel Brooks way, there's nothing like just a little bit of upfront swearing when the moment's right that makes you laugh, and it really does work. You know, you can feel yourself waiting for it. In particular with Roger Melly, you feel yourself waiting for it. You know it's coming, which makes it all the funnier. So yeah, it was good. But unfortunately, it was really funny. I was working with somebody, an agent, and they contacted me and said to me, "Oh, have you ever? We're going to send over some DVDs of the Fat Slags. Have you ever heard of a comic called Viz and the Fat Slags?" And I said, "Yeah," in my facetious way, which has cost me many a good job. I said, "If you turn that DVD round and see who made that, you might see my name on it." And they were like, oh, okay. So that kind of killed that job, which was the live action version of the Fat Slags. So they basically didn't want to talk to me after that, even though they represented me, and I felt I would have done a far better job than the people that did it, which I think was the proof.
Again, that's a low bar, Miles, wasn't it?
That was a low bar. But obviously, yeah, that was before they'd made it. And they didn't want to go with Kathy Burke for some reason. I don't know why, which I think was a big mistake. But anyway, I'm just getting out there. I wasn't involved in the movie of the Fat Slags in any way, shape or form. Sadly, I would love to have been.
Neither were we.
No, I'm sure you weren't. I remember as I say, I remember seeing it and thinking, holy shit, this is a low bar. It really was.
Do any of you think that these ideas would work now with the likes of Netflix and these people who don't have Well, I think they're intelligent enough to know that the fat slags is about these girls who are fat and who are slags.
I think so, absolutely. I don't know. I absolutely think they'd work, even more so now because of the way that, you know, I can remember when The Simpsons started and everybody said Bart's going to be the end of modern civilization as we know it. Kids are going to be, you know, and it was like The Simpsons, and then South Park comes along, you know. So I think more than ever the Viz stuff would work really well now.
Do you think it would work better animated than live action? I think live action's the big problem, isn't it?
I do, yeah. I think animation is definitely the way to go. I think animation was the way to go, and I think the live action, you know, it depends. So the animation is more true to the comic because obviously you guys did all the drawings and then the animators copied them, even though sometimes Roger Melly's head came out a bit weird and a few, you know, and obviously dealing with animators who are very odd people, very odd. You know, they would have, I spent my whole time getting them to take stuff out that they'd done. Like they would just have cats come in and do a shit in the corner for no reason. And all this kind of stuff was going on all the time. My whole time was spent after we'd recorded the voices of just keeping an eye on these very odd fellows who spend too much time on their own, moving something and going click, moving something going click, moving something going click. And they all had weird laughs as well. When they laughed, it was that weird, you know, it was like too long and weird. You knew it was like, I'm not going to let them babysit. They're not getting anywhere near my kids, those people. So, but because it's much truer to the original comic, because of the drawings were very good. You know, once they got them right, once they sent them to China and stopped doing themselves in colour, the Chinese were just like not trying to add anything, but just trying to copy it exactly. So once they sent all the frames to China, which was the second wave, they did a really good job. And I think the live action relies too heavily on the actors and also with the animation, the sets and everything. You don't have to, you know, it's much truer to the comic. So I think, you know, I think all of the Viz characters would you know, especially, I mean, Terry Fuckwit would be fantastic on a Netflix series, or, you know, any one of the characters would really work really well. Maybe we should have a chat afterwards, guys. I don't know who controls it anymore, but we should definitely have a chat. Definitely, it'd be good to have a catch up anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, and also, I don't know who controls the old. Obviously, I just was hired to produce it, so I didn't control any of the rights or anything. But I definitely think that the Fat Slags and Roger Melly and Billy the Fish and Sid would go down well on Netflix. I really do. I think it would. I think would definitely gain at least a cult following.
Do you agree, guys? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, Miles knows his stuff. I mean, the thing is, we get so little time to pursue anything like that these days because there's just basically me and Thorpe and the contributors doing it now, and it's just, you know, it's like a.
I'd be happy to have a chat afterwards and
yeah, that'd be nice.
I know a guy. Ironically, he's a very posh guy. He worked at the BBC for years, but I know a guy at Netflix. So,
Yeah.
But he has got a sense of humour, this guy. That's a good thing, unlike the other guys. But yeah, no, I think it would go very well. I don't know who's got all the masters, but anyway, that's for another day. I don't know who's got all of the rights, or not the rights. Who's got all the original tapes and all that? But it would definitely be something worth pursuing, and the new stuff as well that's not been made. You know, because Netflix is just a content monster, isn't it? It just needs. And when it's funny, it's funny. It's funny. So it was funny then, and it's funny now. You know, it's that's the good thing about it. And I'm sure that there's still, you know, I still get people saying to me, "Oh, I still wait to the end of the video to hear Roger to say fuck off," you know, and I'm like, yeah, that's me too. Because Peter Cook could swear.
He could.
He was an excellent swearer. You know. But I
Private
think-
Eye and Viz are the only two magazines I buy on a regular basis, actually, because both of them give me the news, unlike the BBC.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys read Private Eye? Graham, do you read Private Eye?
Yeah, not regularly, but I'll pick it up when I'm passing the shop. But I have to I don't make a point of going out and buying it.
Simon, do you read Private Eye?
I do, yeah. I don't get them all, but it's as Graham says, it's if I see it in the shop, or if one of the young people in the house is going to the shops, is braving the outside world, and say, oh, get us a Private Eye while you're there.
Do you read it, Miles?
I do, yeah, all the time. My wife buys it, so I read her copy, which I know is not strictly legal. But I've lately though, it just annoys me because of what's going on with this shower of charlatans we've got running the country. So it just does annoy me when I read. But yeah, but I was always a huge fan of Sude's Corner, having worked with many people that could have contributed to that. I was a big fan of Sude's Corner. I really was, you know. So, and I like, you know, it's still funny and spot on. So, but I've always worried about that, having done some of that stuff in the past. I'm always worried about that kind of comedy that makes people think, well, those guys that are funnier and smarter than me are keeping an eye on them. And I'm not 100% sure that it has the effect that it started with, you know, originally in the First World War when they were reporting stuff in that way back from the front and the atrocities. I think I'm always worried that it takes the pressure off the government in many ways, rather than piling it on. But that's just me. I'm just concerned that when people do these, you know, when although The Thick of It is a brilliant show, and when they made the BBC version, I always think it kind of doesn't help get them out. But that's, you know, that's my worry. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I think that it always makes people feel that someone else is keeping an eye on them when they're.
I don't think anybody thinks we're keeping an eye on anybody in particular.
No,
I wouldn't use us as a security system against corrupt government or anything. Yeah.
Although I don't know, often the top tips, keep an eye on the wealthy. Often poor people should pull over during rush hours on the motorway and sit in the fast lane to let rich people pass. I think things like that, subversively, it's in there. You know, I think occasionally you're guilty of it too.
Well, thank you very much, Miles.
And on those cheery notes, can I thank the three of you for contributing to this year's Will Eisner Week. Sorry we can't go to the Bull Inn in Paisley, but maybe in the future we can at some point. Miles, maybe you'd like to join us later in the year if Kendal comes off, the Kendal Festival, where normally me and the guys do big show on an actual stage with an actual audience. But anyway, thanks for your contribution today. I hope you enjoyed it yourself. It'll be going live on Friday the 5th, and I think it'll be on YouTube after that for a wee while. Okay.
Cool. I'll send you guys an email. I'll send you an email.
Yeah, smash